are live. This is GeekGirlCon, and we are doing macrame today. We have a special guest joining us. This is KJ, and KJ will be guiding us through making a plant hanger. We've got our setups and everything here. I am Christina. She or they pronouns. I am wearing some headphones. I've got brownish hair, and I've got a plaid shirt. That's about it for me. How about you, KJ?
Hi, I am KJ. I go by she, her pronouns. I am a over-the-top macrame enthusiast, and I have been doing this for about 3 or 4 years now. I'm wearing a black hoodie to make sure that I'm going to be a stark contrast from the very pale macrame cord that I have behind me. Apologies for the white wall. I realized in retrospect that probably wasn't the best idea, but hopefully it's nice and clear.
Yes, it's got awesome. It looks good. It's got like a shadow behind it, so it's kind of got like the outline, so it's perfect.
I'm grateful for the shadow because the contrast is going to be very key here. And I look forward to teaching everybody, and thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to slip behind the camera now so you can just see my hands and what I'm doing.
Yes. Yes, and I just want to say KJ has been doing an awesome, amazing job of teaching me macrame behind the scenes, and has made it very accessible and fun to learn rather than stressful. So I've really appreciated your help, and yeah.
You've also been a fantastic student.
Yay.
So
oh, thank you. I will be following along, but I will be going slowly, and you'll be kind of going through the steps, and you won't have to slow down for me, but you just keep plugging on.
Well, I hope everyone's doing well. I want to explain the setup that I currently have right now. So I for macrame projects, because they tend to be long or tall, just use a mobile clothes rack to be able to suspend the projects. I've got S hooks that I can use to just put on, use to suspend my hoops, which gives me a lot of mobility. This is a thing that if you're a big enthusiast in the future, if you're trying to figure out a good rig for yourself for doing macrame, it may be a good setup for you to get mobile clothes hanger and S hooks, because as you're working, because you're working in 3D, you might need to move things around. So you can take this off and reconnect it to approach your work from different angles, and it makes things a lot easier. Right now, I've got on one wooden hoop 8 strands of macrame cord. I've got these in the cream off-white color. This is, I believe, a cotton 4 or 3 ply. There's a lot of different cords that you can use for this particular craft. This is a very easy starter one. It's very, very soft on the hands. Some of you might be using different materials or something like jute. I will recommend that if you really like working in jute, which is a coarser, slightly darker fiber, you may actually want to get gloves. It's a little rough on your hands, and it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous, but just be careful with your skin. It can kind of rub you raw. If you are starting out, cotton cord might be the easiest way to go, but it's also nylon is great. There's a lot of different things that you can use that are going to be really fun. And what you use might also depend on what kind of project you're making. Cotton cord has softness for the hands, but also grips very well, so knots will hold. For the first project that I'm going to do, we are going to take the single hoop with all of the 8 cords mounted within at the halfway point. If you are following and you're actually doing this right now, I will say, as you're putting the various cords through, just an easy hack that you may not have thought about, and I apologize, I'm working with a lot of cord. Go ahead and grab one end of the cord, put it through, and then grab the other end and pull them slowly together, kind of adjusting as you go, and then it gets you to the center point very easily. So you get really, really even cords on both sides. But the first knot, we're going to be learning 2 different knots tonight. The first one is going to be called the gathering knot. It's going to gather the cords together and hold them in place so it stays very still and is secure and supported as we move forward. So the 8 cords that we've got on the hoop right now are the 15 feet. You will need 2 substantially smaller cords to do this one. I tend to do like somewhere usually about like 2.5 to 3 feet for a gathering cord. And you're going to start out.
Oh my gosh, I just realized that I didn't bring over the 2.5 foot cord, so I'm already way ahead of the game.
Oh yeah, no, that it's a lot of different pieces of cords at all times.
I may be able to recruit someone who's watching the stream right now to potentially bring me a second pair of cords. Yeah, but you continue, please.
Okay, cool. All right, so you're going to take one end and just make a little loop. You're just going to hold it together. You're not going to tie anything just yet. But with the hand that you're using to hold the gathering knot cord that we are making, kind of pull everything together, and like the way you like to hold, way you will inevitably like to hold these is very much dependent upon you. I personally tend to do the right hand holds the cord and the loop together. And I will pull this just a smidge closer so I can try to make sure that my hands are not directly in the way. I'll do it this way. So you can see that I got the loop right here. I've got the rest of the tail of the gathering knot cord behind. And I'm going to start while still holding this right now with my index finger and my thumb to keep it in place. And getting close-ish to the loop. That's also a stylistic choice, but right now, if early projects, you probably want to keep it fairly close. I will start to wrap while making sure that one thumb is holding the gathering knot in place. And I'm just going to wrap. And you can see, as I'm wrapping around, the loop on the bottom is exposed. You want this loop to be here, and you have this tail up top. These are very important. You want both of these visible to you as you are doing this knot. And we will continue to wrap until we get to whatever aesthetic length you really think is pretty, or you decided, oh, I've reached kind of the end of this cord that I have cut. That is also good. Keep it relatively tight as you're winding this. You can, if it doesn't shape perfectly on the first go, especially if you're brand new, that's totally okay. And one of the things I actually want to stress is that as you are learning these knots, don't get super hung up on how it looks at first. You want to give yourself room to A, make a lot of mistakes because they're very valuable, and B, fiber arts are remarkably easy to kind of like futz and fix. And so I can even just be like, oh, see, look, it's all wonky right now. I've twisted it around. I can pull, oh, pardon me, the next part of this, since I've gotten to the length that I want to finish my knot at, I've got the loop and I've got this tail. I'm going to bring the tail through. And then making sure that it is still through at the bottom, very gently at first. Don't like yank or anything. We can yank in just a second for actual like strength. Go ahead and pull that top tail and like kind of fix as you're working, pull gently. And you can see here, I'm going to move that out of the way. You can see where we're starting to form kind of a little knot down here. Now, when you're nice and close like this, start pulling those 2 tails. And with your other hand, kind of like hold that knot in place and gently pull it upward. Once you've got it, you can feel with your hand where that knot you have just made is like stationed within this new little spot. Just make sure that it's kind of close to the center point. And like, as you can see what I'm doing right here, it kind of misformed the knot as I was making it. And you just go through, you can pinch it, you can pull it down, and then it goes back to being nice and even and fairly uniform again. It's a very forgiving knot. If you made a mistake, you can literally just pull it right back down and do it again.
Excellent.
Yeah, and just you want to try to get it to about, just through feel, about the halfway point. And once you've got it fairly secure and you feel like it's fairly tight and it's looking the way that you want it to look, we are going to grab, and I apologize, I should have clarified, a pair of scissors to make sure that some of you might have prepared a longer cord and you don't want to accidentally weave that into the rest of your project. So you're probably going to want to cut the edges right now. So you're going to want to be careful. I apologize. You want to cut fairly close, but you don't want to cut so close that you end up cutting any of the other cords or cutting the knot itself. So I'll try to get a good angle on this. I think that's okay. Yeah. Just pop that right there. And you got a little bit of the tail for me here. I'm going to do about the similar length. This is I have not seen many people finesse outside of this particular approach, because you've got these little ugly spots just kind of hanging out. You don't want people to see those. Using the edge of your scissors and making sure that your hand is not on the other side to accidentally catch the scissor blades, you can just gently nudge these back down. You don't have to do anything fast or sharp, or just very gently, making sure that your hand is not in the way. Shove those back under the knot. And you have a nice, uniform, fairly even. And if you don't, you can just mess with it, gathering knot to start out your project. Do you think I should do a second one just so people have another example?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you would be cool with that, I think that'd be great. I see one person was saying they're looking for they're gonna save the YouTube link for the pause button. I think that's just because they are following along and probably just are gonna. So I think a second one could be good.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
So my second.
That was great though. That was very clear and awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, my first student is the host of the stream. So like, if anybody is like, hey, that's not particularly clear, I'm not able to see your hands well, I'm really confused, please tell me.
Yeah, I will gladly, like, as long as you're okay with me, like, being like, excuse me, then I will pass on if anybody's like, hey. But yeah, so far, yeah, and Do the Jump says, that's so cool, that knot looks like it'd be so useful for lashing all kinds of stuff together.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. It's not the strongest one that you can do in macrame, but it is very pretty and it does hold fairly well. Like I wish I could actually pull down one of my plant hangers. They're a little far right now. It has held every single relatively heavy plant that I have had with no issues. So it's a very reliable one.
Excellent.
There are some that are like super interesting and stronger because they move a little bit more, and so there's a lot of room for things to kind of bounce and but like this is definitely a very, very good starter one. Going to smooth out. Oh, I want to just state the difference. These are obviously, I've got two different sizes of wooden rings for both of these projects. This cord, I believe, is a 4mm cord. I think this is a 3mm cord. There is a good chance folks will come in with like different sizes of cord. Even if somebody had sat down and said, like, hey, everyone get the 4mm. Sometimes you will get a reel of 4mm or a spool of 4mm, and it will look different than other 4mm. Maybe it's because it was a different size, anything like that. I just wanted to make sure that folks could see, like, okay, sometimes the different thickness will kind of influence how chunky it looks, or sometimes it will affect how tightly your knots look in this particular project. Both of those are fine. There's nothing to worry about. Everyone is going to, their first projects are going to look fairly different.
Unique and special.
Unique and special. Your first is always like your little baby, where you can like point to it and be like, my first wonderful child, and it will look a little interesting sometimes. Most of us. Some people zoom right in and it's very, very even, especially if you have like a really extensive history in like knitting and crochet, then a lot of this stuff is not going to be particularly out of the norm for you. But for the rest of us, starting off, sometimes it looks a little interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do another gathering cord on the second one. I am once again putting together just a loop. So I've got the tail facing up top. I've got the rest of the other tail over my finger to create a small loop. I'm giving myself a fairly large loop, I should clarify, so I can make a longer gathering knot. If you want a really, really short one, you still will probably want to have a longer loop because this is not going to matter and to determine shortness, but it is going to, you will need a little bit of extra space to work if you like need to readjust anything. So having a longer loop is not a bad idea. So I'm going to push up against the project, making sure that the tail is facing upward and the other one is downward. Just trying to, sorry, normally I do this with my opposite hand. So like, but for visibility, I'm trying to make sure. Pressing it against and pulling and going over the knot that I have made. You can see this one is already kind of sadly getting a little twisted. So I'm going to pull this to the back.
Yeah, on mine, I kind of half-assed mine over here, but it worked out. It's okay. I kind of tucked it. We're fine. But just that the beginners in the audience know that, yeah, when I like my first ones have not been there. I am still learning to get that one pretty.
But the ones that they have done have been absolutely beautiful. I think they've done a marvelous job.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. So I'm just wrapping it around over and over. This one I think I might go kind of particularly long, just so it'll look a little bit different because I like having a little bit of variety. And we're almost okay. So I don't think I can wrap another time. I'm going to go ahead and pull this through. So the bottom tail has gone through the loop. I'm just going to hold that in place because it's a little short. I'm going to take the top tail and very gently, I'm going to start pulling upward so that I have secured the bottom tail within the loop now. Pull them both at the same time. And now I'm going to pull upward very gently, trying to make sure that everyone can see as I'm doing this, into the wrapping that you have done around the cords. And you can see right here, actually, in this one, it kind of breaks the evenness where this knot is right now. So I'm gonna pull it just a smidge higher, and then I'm gonna fuss with this a little bit so it looks a little bit neater. And there we go. I'm going to cut off the excess tail and then tuck the edges back in. Make sure that you give yourself, especially if you're newer, give yourself a little room so that you don't accidentally cut your cords, because that sucks and I've done it. And yeah, just pull over, go ahead and trim that off, and then use, making sure that your hands are not in harm's way, poke those edges back in. And you cannot even see them. I kept thinking somebody was eventually going to tell me like, oh, there's a much like neater way to
Like,
tuck the edges in. I have seen no one do anything differently. Everyone always says, yeah, just use the edge of the scissors.
I mean, it makes sense. It's perfect. Like, and once you told me, I was like, oh, really? That's awesome. Like, I was worried there was some kind of like wild thing I had to do to make it look neat, but it's awesome that you could just kind of tuck them.
Yeah, no, it's very, one of the reasons I think they recommend this one particularly to a lot of beginners is because there really isn't a lot of complexity and you can just use a quick to easy tool and it doesn't have any problems. It's really nice. The next knot that we're going to move on to, I'm sorry, I'm going to center that a little bit more, is called the spiral knot. I'm going to pull my cords away a little bit here. What you're going to do first, I'm still, you can tell, man, I just like always fuss with things. Like, oh, does it look perfect? You don't need to look perfect. You can always adjust these afterward too, just kind of like, because you can mold it in your hands and it will like, it yields very well. You're going to want to pull out at the bottom 4 different cords. Now, pull those away from the rest of your cords. And what I want you to do is take the rest of them and put them so that they are not in your like direct line of sight, and also so they are not like in your hands, in your hair, making sure they're like out of the way, because we don't want to accidentally integrate one of these other cords into this particular chain.
And
it's going to be, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say, and what they can't see on either of our screens is the long, huge mess of cords that we have on the ground.
Oh, yeah,
at least on mine, I have them on the ground and I'm working on it, but.
Oh, yeah, no. I should actually, it's a very, very good point to make. You are going to probably just have a mess at your feet. Unless you have like a good setup where you can like throw it over the side and out of your way, you may just end up with a bit of a mess at your feet. If you are having a lot of trouble with it,
you could also. Oh, sorry. I thought you were asking me. Go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, sorry. if you have that, if that mess is starting to bother you and it's like kind of in your way, you can always like throw it over your shoulder, or like just make sure that you're not going to trip on it, frankly, because that's really important. And if you can just kind of set it aside, it will make the rest of the work much easier. But yeah, we are going to start out with something called the spiral knot. I was trying to figure out if maybe tonight would be good. A lot of people will start macrame beginners on the square knot. I think that might actually be a little too complex to start, because it alternates and it's hard unless you have the basic part of the knot form to know how to differentiate it. This is going to be the exact same knot over and over and over. You can just get your practice in. When by the time you get through even like one chain of this, it's going to be like down to beginning muscle memory. So I have 4 separate cords. I'm going to leave the center 2 kind of hanging in the middle and use my index fingers to pull the outer 2 cords apart from each other. Now, we'll also actually separate those really quick because I don't want to like accidentally smack the camera or anything, because I'm going to be like whipping these around. What we're going to do is we're going to take the macrame cord on the right, and we are going to use our fingers, our free fingers, so like your middle or your ring finger or your pinky, to cross it in front of the 2 center cords. You will then let the macrame cord hanging on the left come in front. Using your middle finger or your ring finger, whichever is easiest for you, I want you to kind of hold your hand in this position, but swing the cord hanging on the left behind the center cords and over the loop that you have created in the right cord. Now, I want to show, like, well, I'm going to do that one more time. So I've separated these out. My index finger is holding the outer 2 cords. With my middle finger, I am taking the cord on the right, crossing it in front of the 2 cords that are suspended in the middle. And the cord that is on the left is now hanging in front. With my middle finger, and I can move the camera in just a second, so I apologize. It's kind of hard to gauge like the best view for this. With my middle finger on my left hand, I am going to swoop back so that the cord that was on the left is now behind the loop on the right. I will then pick with my middle finger and my thumb that cord through the front. I'm going to do this a bunch of times. So if anyone is following this and they're getting stressed out, don't worry about it. We're going to figure this out. You're going to see it a billion times. So very gently, since I have, this is what this currently looks. So sorry, I am dragging things forward and trying to make sure that I still have access to light. This is what it looks like right now. You should have the cord that was previously on the left now poking out through the front on the right. If it is on the other side, then you just did it the opposite direction. That is also acceptable. That will also give you the spiral knot if you do that over and over and over again. This is just the direction that my hands want to do. This is my muscle memory for it. So I am going to very gently pull with my middle finger and my ring finger. I will actually hold the two hanging cords in the middle down and straight. But with my index finger and thumb on both hands, I will pull the two outer cords up until they are close to the gathering knot. And you don't see like a big gap. There's a little bit of a gap, but that's because we've also got cord coming out the top. So it's not going to be completely flush. That is the first knot in the spiral knot. And from here, we are just going to do the exact same thing over and over and over again. And what we're going to get is like a twisting, gorgeous knot that cascades downward. So I will pull the camera back a little bit. I apologize. I hope it's not nausea vision for anybody. With my index fingers, I will pull the two outer cords out and away from the two center cords. The center cords in this knot, you are not going to disturb. They're not going to get woven into anything. They're there to sort of be the filler for the middle for thickness. So the two outer cords, I am going to use my middle finger to pull the cord over from the right to the left. And as you can see, as I'm pulling it over, I'm pulling the cord on the right behind the cord on the left. And then using my middle finger on my left hand, I'm going to go through the back with the left cord and pull it through the front of the loop you have made on the right. One of the things I want to stress as people are learning this in particular, you may run into, and you're probably going to run into it time and time again, some part of you is going to be like, oh, it's okay, I'll do this. I pulled really, really hard on one side. Oh no, the center knot is really messy now. If your two center cords end up kind of like all over the place, easy fix. Just pull them down. If they get wound up, and you should kind of watch them, usually they can't be seen, but if you want to make sure your knot work is very uniform, try to make sure they don't get like wound up in a circle and keep spiraling, because the spiral is going to happen on the outside. But yeah, you can see that it's uneven now, right? Very gently while holding the center knots. It's very easy to do it with your middle and your ring fingers together. Just kind of adjust it. You want to be putting even pressure actually on both sides and gently pulling it up until it is very, very close to the previous knot. Don't overstrain your hands. And I also want to stress here, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I keep accidentally knocking the camera.
You've
I'm
actually gotten support from chat. They say your camera works all good. You're awesome. And ditto.
Oh, okay, thank
Lots
you.
of people are. Yeah, you're doing great.
Okay, cool. Thank you all so much, and thank you very much. You just want to make sure that you're not pulling one side harder than the other. Work slow to start with, but also I starting out ended up giving myself a bunch of hand cramps and wrist pain because I was pulling kind of from the wrist like this. You really don't want to do that. And you can get really tight knot work without stressing the hands and stressing the wrist and stressing your forearm by very gently holding this here and putting more strength into just your fingers. Don't tense your wrists. Pull it apart pull the part. Pull the outer cords away from each other very gently without just like, don't use the strength from here. You just want to use your fingers because it's going to be just as secure. You don't need to like get like a death grip. Because that can really, really hurt your hands. I don't want you guys hurting your hands. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I wanted to add that like how much I appreciated you telling me this part because like this was the thing that yeah, I have wrist problems, have had carpal tunnel surgery, and so like I was so glad you told me this because probably I would have done the same thing and been like yoink, and so it's been very helpful to just kind of realize you can just do that like sort of follow it along where the ropes are already kind of trying to go anyway, and just kind of gently pull them in the direction they're already going, and you really don't have to yank, because that wouldn't be intuitive on your first time.
Yeah, yeah. And like a lot of people will talk about getting not uniformity with like grip strength. Um, don't even bother with that yet. It's going to emerge. Uniformity will show up in your work as you continue to do the knots. Make sure that you're just, yeah, don't pull it as hard as you can. Mostly right now you're trying to get it as even as possible, and you can do that very gently and it will be very strong. So I will keep doing this. I'm going to pull a little further back just so it's a little more of a visual point there. So I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to take the cord that is on the right over to the left. The left cord will go on top. With my middle finger or my ring finger, I will pull it through to the right side and over through the front of the right loop. I was standing on my cord. Even at this point, I am just starting to, yeah, and gently pulling those two together.
It's good for people to know that even experts at this can make mistakes sometimes, because that's encouraging for those of us who are just starting out. It's like, okay, sometimes this stuff just happens.
Oh yeah, totally. No matter where you are, like in terms of expertise, I have heard so many people be like, yeah, I've tripped on my cord. I've gotten it like knotted in my hair. Like it's just kind of everywhere. So like, you have to accept it. And I do want to also add, if you're getting your, here, I'm going to do one more knot so that and I will go much slower in the future. I'm just trying to make one point. I'm going to pull it back up. If you are pulling apart and you're starting to get strained through here, like if you have like Down syndrome or something, just be very, very careful. Let go of the two hanging cords. You don't have to hold them. You just kind of want to straighten them out. And then when you're up here, you can just tighten. So like, just make sure you're working within your comfort level. Don't force yourself to hold your hands the way that I am holding mine if it is giving you any discomfort. But yeah, so I'm going to keep, yeah, thank you. All right, so I'm going to continue to do this very slowly so that people can watch me as they're moving forward. I will still kind of narrate it. I don't know if my description is particularly helpful, so if it is not, please let me know. And like, oh, also, if you're feeling like your cords or like your knots are not quite close enough, just go ahead and poke them up like that. You can just push them upward and it'll be fine. You're starting to see, I think, a little bit of the spiral that is forming. So I'm going to pull the outer cords apart with my index finger. I'm going to take the cord over the inside to from the right to the left. The left hanging cord is going to go over top, and I will use my ring finger or my index or ring finger or ring finger or middle finger to go behind. Take the cord from the left back through the right side loop and through the front.
Oh, and I'll take this opportunity to interject that I remember the question I asked you when we were first starting did this one, so I'll ask it sort of on stream. What do we do when we, like, it's moving away from me and it's getting awkward to do it from that angle? Like, what do I do?
This is one of my favorite knots for that specifically. Because yeah, inevitably you're going to hit a point where it's starting to turn. It's not facing the way you want to face anymore. It does not matter which way this knot faces. Continue to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to flip it over the other side. I'm going to try really hard not to get the other freaking cords. Here we go. And I'm now on the back side. I'm going to do the exact same thing, and it will give me the exact same knot. It's not going to affect the pattern wherever I'm facing it. So I am pulling the cord from the right over the suspended two, and then I am going to put it behind the left cord, take the left cord behind the back through the loop so it comes in front on the right, and very gently and very slowly, do not rush yourselves, pulling it toward the top. I like to hold this because I can hold this now with, I can hold the center too without straining my wrist, and just tighten it until I feel like I like how it looks. And you can see that spiral. It's the exact same on both sides. Just doing the same hand motion, nothing will change. if you start to see your spiral knots not spiraling, you might actually be alternating. So go ahead, just pull that out and try again. So you want to take the outer two, the one on the right is going to cross the center two, the one on the left will go over and then behind on the right, and you'll pull it through the loop on the right and very gently pull it up toward the top.
Jay says, I see the spiral. That's so cool.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Jay is a friend who has chimed in because I am here. So thank you very much, Jay. I really appreciate it. And yeah, so I'm gonna very slowly keep doing this on camera so that people can see it. I will probably narrate a little less now, unless somebody says they really want me to narrate, in which case I will totally do it again. It is up to everybody. But yeah, just outer out together. The right through to the left, pulling the left back and around through the front on the right. Very gently pulling it upward. How is yours going, Christina?
I kind of went ahead because it was so soothing to keep doing the knot.
Okay,
that started going fast. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. If as you're working, this feels really like calming and chill, and you just want to like forge ahead, everybody just forge. Just do it. Like this is one of the most chill crafts that I have ever participated in, and I think like that's one of the reasons I actually stuck around. It's easy to kind of fuss with if something kind of goes wrong, and it's really fun to just participate in and let your brain kind of like do its own little white noise because you're doing something that's nice and chill and repetitive and comfortable. Hopefully, yeah. If you are being careful with your wrists, it should be very comfortable. This should be a comfortable process.
Oh yeah, and Emerald was saying earlier in the chat, I figured now is a good time while we're kind of doing the spiral still. I can read a couple things from chat from earlier. Emerald said that she's working on she was recently frustrated with the macrame project. It's a plant hanger also, but with like little bee looking knot things, which sounds really interesting. Bees, I have not seen that.
That sounds really cool. I'm going to get a social media set up specifically for my macrame work. And if in the future anybody's like, hey, I have a problem or I want to share the project that I'm doing, I would absolutely love to see everything that everyone is working on.
Excellent.
And I'm very curious what that knot is. I'm like, is it a berry knot maybe? I don't know. But yeah.
Maybe. Let's see.
I will do it slower again in just a moment.
Oh, geez, I did something while I wasn't paying attention. This is my undo the knot moment.
Oh, and just actually, since I'm mid on this one, as you can see right here at the bottom of the screen, so I apologize, I realized. I'll see if I can lower the camera a little bit here. Flipping side to side, exact same thing. So it's the knot starting to face away from me. I flipped it around. I'm going to pull it up. And it continues the pattern. But yeah, you just keep going the same every time. If it starts to straighten out, it means you've accidentally alternated. Go ahead and pull those knots out and then try doing the same thing over and over again. Generally, you want to start with your cord on the right, crossing over, putting the left in front, through the back, and through the right.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention to everybody on stream that they had two left-handers on screen too.
Oh, yeah,
you've got two left-handers here. We may have, I don't know if you're flipped. I was just kind of doing it. Mine is, if you're looking at my screen, it's going to be like maybe flipped than what you would expect as a right-hander if you're watching. I don't know if you had flipped yours the other way or not, but mine, yeah. I just realized, oh yeah.
Slowly flipping. Also, like, you can totally see too, sometimes I don't like keep total track of the interior two cords. They can get a little wound up. It's not really going to affect the texture or like the structure of anything you do. It's more for nitpicky people that they're like, oh, I really need this cord to sit completely flat so everything's totally perfect. But like if you don't and you lose it and you feel like they're like kind of, moved around, pardon me, you can just kind of fuss with them until they look like they're laying straight, but it's not going to affect the ultimate like project. Like it's going to look great. You're going to do fine. You need to also like give yourself room to make mistakes. Those are really, really valuable learning lessons.
Yes. Do the Jump says, crafts that your hands can do by themselves are so nice and soothing.
Oh yes, those are the best ones.
I agree. This has been so awesome. It's like, yeah, there can of course, be frustration when you're trying to learn a new thing and you're trying to, and something's being difficult, especially I'm sure like a difficult new knot, which I have not really gotten to, honestly, like that's really like challenging knots, but I do feel like once you get the sense of the knot and your hands start to kind of get know what they're doing a little bit with that particular knot, it just feels really nice, because it's like, especially when you're not pulling hard and you're kind of letting it be gentle, it kind of puts you in a little gentler frame of mind, or at least for me it does.
Yeah, definitely. I on high stress days, I will actually just bust out the macrame, and it like totally clears my brain for like an hour or two, however many projects I want to get through, or whatever I end up doing. It's just nice because it empties the thought out. You're just looking at what you're doing as you move forward. So you can see it's making this nice little spiral. I tend to do fairly tight structure myself. Um, you can do this much more loosely. It is equally valid. Everyone has kind of like a different preference for how tight they like to pull the cords in their ultimate knot structure.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm curious now. Is this like, do I have a tight structure, or I'm holding, let me see if I can hold it up. Or do I have like a looser structure? I don't know if you can.
Oh, your structure is fairly okay. I think it's kind of like in between.
Okay.
But I would say it's fairly, it's on the tighter side. And wow, you are so uniform now.
Thank you. Yeah, I was feeling good about it. I was like, yeah, I think I'm keeping it kind of consistent, which is nice because it's been a little bit since I've done the spiral. There's definitely a couple spots, but yeah.
Doing it great. Awesome. And once again, I am flipping it around, doing the exact same thing, because it doesn't matter which way the project is facing. Just keep doing the same knot. And I'm sorry, I keep having to like pull the camera down. So
not a worry. It just is one of those kinds of crafts that's a little harder than like, we've done a couple different kinds of crafts on stream, and when it's something that's like a paper craft, it's you can kind of keep it centered in one little square, right? But of course, when it's something like a bigger project like this, it's so much harder to kind of keep everything centered on screen. So you're doing great.
Yeah. Thank you. These are definitely ones where it's like, oh, everything moves. Everything has to move. I'm sorry, I'm not zooming through the cord either. I want to make sure that people are getting lots of images of my hands moving to know how to hold everything as you're moving forward. And just to reiterate the point from earlier, when you get to the point where you are about to pull it up to join the other knots, just try to put fairly even pressure and even pull on the two outside cords. That way they'll stay together. If you don't, it's not a problem. It's very fixable. I'm going to do it like quote unquote wrong. I will just pull the center two down. Of course, like I get stuck behind. There we go. Pulling the center two down. I had to find them.
Makes sense.
And then I can pull the two cords apart again, and I can find it. And I just, keeping them even, gently pull them upward together. So like a lot of the time, especially early in, you're technically doing the knots right. But sometimes it will end up super wonky and you're like, what happened? 9 times out of 10, it's because you pulled one side faster or harder than the other as you were pulling the knot up. Mm-hmm. So don't get discouraged if like over and over again, oh, it's not working. Yeah, it's okay. Just pull it a little bit apart again and pull those center cords down. It will help you see what's going on, and then just evenly put the pressure until you rejoin it with the knots.
Excellent. Yeah, that is a good thing to keep in mind too, is that, this is forgiving and not, there's no permanent damage done when something goes a little right. It just means a little nudging and adjusting, and even sometimes, like you've said to me, you know, even sometimes just totally undoing, like all the way back, and even then it doesn't seem like the worst.
Yeah, no, it is such a forgiving craft. And like, as I have told Christina a few times, like the more mistakes you make, the better, especially early in, because really early is when you need to make mistakes. You need to make all of them so you can figure out where you're putting the pressure, where you're pulling too hard, where you're not pulling hard enough. If you're not keeping your hands kind of where they would best be, it's really valuable to make mistakes. You learn from them. So give yourself a lot of space. Oh, gotta pull the camera back down. There we go.
Do the Jump says, I'm kind of super jazzed about macrame's ability to create arbitrary, complex, three-dimensional shapes. This method of construction is kind of incredible.
Yeah, it's really interesting too. I have gotten into more and more complicated macrame knots with time, and the way they all function is fascinating. Some of them are meant to have a lot of bend, which gives them a lot of movement, which gives them a lot of strength. Some of them are, you know, really tight, just interesting pattern work. And it's given me like I've started looking up like just knot work for sailors as a result. Apparently, we probably got macrame from someone who lived either before or during the Ottoman Empire.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to say this very wrong because I do not speak Arabic. But we probably get the word macrame from the word magriba, I believe it was. I apologize if anybody knows the word or knows the pronunciation better, but it loosely, I believe, translated or translates. I'm not sure how out of date the word is, to fringe. And so it was used as kind of a decorative outside knot. And then like it met with a bunch of people who were sailors, and they were already doing fairly interesting knot work, as you know you do when you're sailing, for any particular reason, and then it traveled upward. It got to you know, Europe and other parts of the world, and the biggest boom, I guess, for starting like really create like what the fashionable periods was the Victorian era. So people were doing like really complicated, really fun work, and like getting books up, I think, from because the Ottoman Empire was up until when I can't remember. It was a very long lasting.
Oh yeah, I am rather terrible at dates, historical dates. Only
Yeah,
if it's related to something
same.
that I have been like specifically looking up. Then I'm like, oh yeah, that was 2500 BC. But like, yeah, if it's not, then I'm like, I don't know what is time.
What is time in general?
But
That's a good
that's
question.
interesting, and you know, that's really interesting too to hear that it came through sailors, especially since that would have been predominantly male. And now, of course, you know, it's like I think there are predominantly women doing it, or at least there's the perception that predominantly women are doing it, and so it's really interesting to know. It's just one of those things.
Like back and forth of like, is this popular with dudes? Is this popular with the ladies?
Yeah, and it's very silly. It can't be all of the above.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. But yeah, it makes sense that it would go through sailors with all the complex knot work that they would need to do on a day-to-day basis for whatever individual purposes on the boats, and it's fun working with these and finding which ones are like really strong and which ones are actually just purely decorative. But there are some that are fairly complicated that are remarkably strong.
Yeah.
It's just like forging like rope from rope, extra rope.
And Emerald says, "Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead."
I was just gonna say, Emerald said, "I appreciate a craft that is forgiving," and Jay says, "Our macrame eye patch," and then asked, "Hey, KJ, what skill level of macrame would I need to make myself a macrame bow tie?"
Oh my gosh! You know what? You don't need to be crazy advanced with that at all. Now I'm thinking about the eye patch and the bow tie. Like, how realistically could I do that? And would you actually just, with the bow tie in particular, would you need to like retie it? You have to retie it each time. But I guarantee you, yeah, I could say you could probably do fairly straightforward. Like you could realistically, so there is an alternating form of this one that is just referred to as a square knot. And I don't want to confuse anybody right now, so I'm not going to do that one at the moment because I want you to just see this one so you get this one down really well. But you do it in reverse every other one, and it gives you a much flatter structure. And you could do a center bound together with multiple kind of different sections of a square knot and loop them back through and make a bow tie. Definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm gonna, all right, now that people have mentioned it, like I am gonna make an eye patch and I am gonna make a bow tie. I'm gonna have to figure it out.
Like,
It's too
genuinely,
fun.
if you're thinking of doing, yeah, if you're gonna do a YouTube channel, I would be so excited if you just did weird project or strange, unusual project, because that's the thing that's hard is like, already, I've come to you with a couple things where I was like, I want to do this, and I can't find anyone on the internet who's thought of this thing apparently, and I don't know if I'm just like coming up with a wild out of the blue idea or if it's what, but I think that would make your channel really stand out because holy cow. Like I told you, I was like, I want a bandolier. I want to make a macrame bandolier, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been like doing research to be like, okay, how would I just do this one? Because I'm sure like there's got to be somebody who's done something adjacent to it, but they haven't just gone the whole way. It probably isn't even that complex. But yeah, I'm looking into it, and I do think that would be like a really, really fun YouTube channel to do of like, well, we figured out eye patches.
Yeah, I really think that would be super awesome. Yeah, we've got support. Emerald's like, yes, I support this.
I am glad that people are, I really appreciate folks telling me like fun ideas for different projects because that really just gets my mind going. And I just wanted to do more and more complicated stuff lately. So
awesome. And I feel like those interesting, like unusual projects can capture imagination for people who are, they're like, well, I don't really necessarily, need a plant hanger, or I don't necessarily need a, whatever one of the like standard crafts is that you usually see for those. But if there's something that they're like, yeah, but I would like a bow tie, that would be cool.
Yeah,
then exactly. I think like that could really capture people's imaginations, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really fun idea. And I don't know, I think that's super rad. Good. There's so many, like, there's definitely a lot of room within macrame to be like hyper functional, but also like ridiculous over the top decorative and like very silly if you want to be.
Yeah.
And so like there's so much space in there for folks to take advantage of.
Yeah.
You will notice as you're moving forward too, your outer cords are going to start to get, I'm going to see if I apologize in advance. You're going to see like my whole like cord setup. It's not like the smartest setup I've ever done, but I want to make sure people can see this as I am making these. The two outer cords, there we go, are getting much shorter than the two interior cords.
Mm-hmm.
That is supposed to happen. That is totally fine. And the length of those cords on the outside, you should kind of keep an eye on. If you go really, really far down and there's like no cord left, you can just undo cord. So it's nothing to stress about. But you want to leave probably, it will really depend on what you actually want to like mount within the structure that you're making. For most plant hangers, I like to keep the design work a little shorter so that I can have a lot of room for the plant to be put in at the bottom. So right now I'm looking at about 3.5 feet is still available to me. I'm going to keep going for probably another 6 inches, and then I'm going to like stop this particular chain to move on to the next chain.
Yeah, I just had to stop mine because I was like, I think I might have gone, as far as I want to go. And I started on my second one because I was like, yeah, I'm wanting to use this I want it to not be too short on the ends. And I also want to make sure that the plant that I'm just going to put in it is going to be far enough off the ground this time. Not this time, but the one that it's already in, it has a store-bought macrame hanger, and my other two are in the ones that I made with you, and but this one is very long, so I was like, I would like to make it a different one that's a little shorter.
Yeah, totally fair. And just make sure that whatever you're making, you're just kind of suiting it to your own needs. If you're seeing a lot of gap in between these knots, that's cool. I hope people will actually show pictures of stuff they make if they end up using this particular tutorial. Everyone kind of like will get their own aesthetic as they move forward. I like to work very tightly. Other people might not. And it all looks fucking rad. So just keep going and doing your thing. I know that Christina's like tightness gauge with the chains has been like a little variable, getting much tighter and much more uniform as they move forward. And it's just really fun to see what everybody's like individual preferences are.
Yeah. I like that. Like, yeah, as like I think yours look incredible. I love the tight work, and but like when with me, it's I like how it feels to do it at a certain tension point, and so I just for my own work, and then I do like a little looser, and I like the way it feels in my hands, and so that's what drives my my decision of the kind of gauge I'm aiming for is just like what feels right. And I don't know how much that drives what you do, if it's based on how it feels to do it at a certain amount, or if it's what you like, how you like, or if it's based on what you like to look at, or I don't know.
For me in particular, I definitely have moments where I'm like, I really need to just kind of figure out what I want this to look like, or trying to reproduce closer to what someone else does, and you kind of have to adjust how you go. But I definitely at this point work on comfort. Like if this is what the muscle memory wants me to do, this is how it ends up looking.
That makes
So
sense.
yeah.
We have so much excitement in chat right now about many kinds
Really?
of things you can macrame. We have
Yeah.
I'm not crediting all of you. I'm just gonna read all the things. Macrame cat harness. We have macrame fall protection harness. Okay, you might be able to tell some of Jake's in here. Macrame fall protection harness. Macrame hammer holster, nightstand, bookshelf with shelves made of books. Jay says macrame candy bowl.
I think we actually like. I think I would be able to do a candy bowl pretty easily. Actually, this is kind of a space where it leans toward like crochet, and that's fairly
That's
But no,
awesome.
I like the cat harness in particular.
Me too. I love that actually. With two kittens, I would be very interested in this. Although I don't know. I don't know if they would probably try to tear up a macrame harness. They'd be like, "Oh, interesting. Thank you. I will put my claws in that."
What if I also could eat this? Please don't.
Yeah, please do not allow your cats to eat rope-like substances. This has been a PSA.
Yeah,
It's very bad.
don't let them do it.
As much as they try to convince you that it is totally okay.
Yeah, this is fine for me now. I know you, cat, and I know you to be a liar about what you can and cannot eat.
Yes. Jay
Okay,
now says macrame cat food. Okay, that seems not so great.
Too dangerous. Too dangerous. But yeah, all right. So I will actually also even add here, looking down, you can see, there we go, that the two outer cords are kind of uneven. That's fine. This is not, there may be macrame science at some point in the future. I don't know. For me, not a science. It's okay if things are a little uneven. If you want things to be super uniform in the end, I will do one that is going to be very uniform in the end. I will do one that's meant to be much looser, much more open. But given that I am probably going to need a lot of, at this point, what's left of this one to make the actual basket filled with the plant, I am going to take out 4 more cords and start the next chain. When you're picking out cords, you really kind of don't need to worry about which ones you're picking out. Pick ones that are like close to each other, and that's totally fine. Because it's gathering knots, it's not like you're being super specific with cord placement. You can see, actually, I'll put this back up, so I apologize. There we go. This is kind of a stiff phone crane thing going on here. I'm pulling some of these out from like just kind of the middle, sinking back down. That's okay. Get this 4 cords pulled out again. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4.
we've got wild cards in the chat. They're just going off. Jay, Emerald, and Emerald and Do the Jump are having fun with all the things you can macrame.
I am fast. I'm going to I think go to the list afterward to see the list because I'm gonna have to try some of the fringier ones.
You might struggle with the macrame 3 family house with a backyard or
that one might be a little tough.
I mean, if anybody can do it, I believe in you. But like, yeah, that one does sound hard to me.
Well, thank you for your faith. I'll have to give it a shot.
Also, if you can make me a house out of macrame, that would be incredible. So,
hey, I've got a new goal now. I can't stop thinking about the eye patch though.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, like, I can see it.
Yeah.
Or I guess I wouldn't be able to see it super well, but once I had the eye patch on.
Not with that eye, particularly. Yeah. The other eye would be able to see it just fine. In like a mirror.
Yes. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was saying just keep doing it over and over. Continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna comment. Once we do eventually get to Square Knot, I don't know if that probably won't be tonight just based on time, but next time if you come on again, then we can go over that. But it's just so funny once you get there, then how easy it is to start accidentally screwing up on this one because it's like, oh, I keep trying to reverse.
Yeah. I made sure to ask Christina before, is the spiral knot going to be a good starting point? And they said, yeah, because that one was easier for me. And then I remembered trying to alternate to teach you getting into the square and being like, hey, it's really fun.
Yeah.
To see whether it's going right or not, because you can like see it starting to like turn instead of being flat. Because it's one of those like, if you get in the habit of doing one or the other, you will occasionally just start repeating it without thinking. So sometimes you'll affect your projects that are not that knot, and it'll like, because it's very close to the same thing, just alternation.
Yes. Oh, Do the Job asks, when you isolate your 4 chords, is it important to get 4 chords from the same side of the chord bundle, or is it okay to mix and match all willy-nilly?
If they are even remotely neighbors, then you've done a perfect job.
Nice.
Yeah, so you don't need to they don't need to be like perfectly lined up on one side to be acceptable. You can absolutely just have ones that are like, I mean, they're close together, I guess. You generally don't want to be like, oh, I'll grab one all the way from the opposite side, because you can kind of like, it will make things a little complicated when you're moving forward. They'll kind of like get a little wound up maybe. But overall, if they are even remotely close to each other, you've accomplished your mission.
Excellent.
Oh man, I got a hangnail. I apologize. All right. There we go. Back at it again.
I guess while we're at this moment, maybe I'll ask a question. Are there beginner traps that people get stuck in, or mistakes that are common for people just starting out when they're trying to do this on their own?
Yeah, I had mentioned the most common one, in my opinion, had been the like not realizing you're actually doing the knots correctly because you're just pulling in one direction too hard, and you just don't know the structure well enough to just yank it out and be like, oh, it was fine. I just managed to drag it on one side. That tends to be the most common one. Where we start getting into complicated mistakes that take a little bit of thought is when we get to the basket, which I'm going to keep very, very simple for everybody. And we're probably not honestly going to be able to get to that tonight even, because I wanted to make sure that I was doing this slowly enough for people to be able to follow and get a good understanding of where their hands are supposed to be and where the rope is supposed to go. But when we get to the basket, I am going to make sure that I have like 3 or 4 ready to finish off, just to do over and over so everyone can see it. because you start to get into, okay, now I'm like really working in 3D. I was working in 3D before, but now I'm like plucking chords and hoping they're the right ones. And there's a way of, keeping it organized and making it so you're less error prone. But wow, a lot of the problems tend to actually hit at first when you get to your first basket.
Yeah, that feels fair because like the basket was definitely like I think it would be a little hard for me to bring over my first baby right now, but it is special in the basket area because it is like I added like an extra like row at the very end and didn't really realize I had done it, or just on one side I did like an extra knot and it was like shorter, and I was like, so I have one place where it just has like an extra knot. I'm like, oh whoops, and I didn't know I really did it until I kind of already committed.
Yeah. And like, again, it's as long as we are checking things as we move forward, before cutting any rope, everything is fixable. Everything. Every mistake is cool. Every mistake is great because you've learned something from it. But yeah, no matter what, we can fix the project moving forward as long as you don't cut it until you double check it.
Yeah. And I actually did make that mistake too, which was that I had cut some on the bag we made. We were starting on a bag, and I had finished the bag off, and I cut the the way that it was done on the inside. I had like flipped it inside, and then I cut it, and then realized I was like, I don't think this is good. And then I realized I couldn't really fix it because I had cut them too short, and I was like, oh no, I think I'm just gonna have to redo the bag. So that's a project in the wings.
Yeah, I totally should have, with that project with you, I should have been like, we're doing basket tier 2. And we went kind of immediately from like basket tier 1 to like basket tier 7.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't even realize.
Yeah, it's just because there were so many like moving pieces that's why that makes it so complicated.
It still was a really good learning project though, because I mean, like, even though I did make some of those mistakes on the way, like looking at it after and thinking about it, I was able to kind of be like, oh, this will be a like, I know what I did wrong there, and I kind of see what I would need to pay better attention to in the future, and so it was still informative.
Yeah. That's the way people should look at their projects, especially early in. Like, it's all about learning as you're moving forward. Great. And like
Volumnia says, "Happy little accidents" with a Bob Ross
happy emoji. 100%. Accidents are great in macrame. You will only benefit as long as it does not involve scissors.
Just don't take out the scissors until you are absolutely sure.
Yeah.
We've joked on this on our stream team before about doing ASMR streams. We'll have to do an ASMR macrame.
I would very, very happily do that.
Yeah.
Whispering the entire time.
Yes.
Relax Grime. There we go.
Oh, that's good.
We got a name.
Relax Grime. Huh. Yeah, I was trying to figure out like macrame ASMR, but it didn't really work. Do the Jump says, you didn't make a mistake cutting those cords too early. They're a bird now. Bob Ross emoji. That bird might be a goose, though. Oh, wait, do we? Yeah, that counts as a pun, right? Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
That was really good. I just liked it.
Yeah. I forgot. Do we have the pun counter active? Is that 9 puns have been made? Okay.
Oh, dang. Nice. I didn't know there was a pun counter. That's incredible.
Volumnia had implemented that for us, so I think it may be counting all of our puns. I don't think we made 9 puns this stream, but I think it might be since we started having the pun counter, so we'll know when it started, and then maybe we can do a year in review of puns.
That sounds good. I look forward to a year in review of puns. That sounds like a statistic I would very happily show up for.
Yes.
I'm sorry if the contrast is a little strong. The lighting system is very much new, so
that looks awesome.
Okay, good. trying to make sure that it's actually visible.
The lighting is actually kind of good because again, it's creating certain like shadows on it, which help it with the contrast a lot because it shows where the spiral is and stuff. So I think it's good.
That makes sense. Thank you for letting me know. Sometimes I'm like looking at the project and sometimes I'm looking at the camera. So it's like,
yeah, me too. Yeah. Emerald says it looks great, KJ.
Thank you. I hope everyone's having a good night and relaxed as they're watching all these knots happen.
I'm sure they have to be, right? They're hanging out with us.
We're keeping it chill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm getting close. Getting close to matching up the second chain to the first one.
Me too. I'm like checking. I actually, really just a couple more rows. And then I'll be there.
Nice. Also trying to like, I can go very quickly, but that's not going to be particularly useful for anybody. So I'm trying to make sure I'm going at like a speed that is much more easier to see what I'm doing.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's very helpful for folks. Yeah, and yeah, like I think you're still going at a good one. I was gonna say we could try to get to. It's only 8:20, and we on our like some of our streams we do until 9. So if you would like, we can go longer if you want to get to the basket. And
yeah, I can try to whiz through since I've done a lot of fairly slow knots. I feel like people probably have ample like footage to like go through if they wanted to like make sure they were getting the knot form correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I could go through and we can try to get to the basket.
Yeah, that sounds good. And you don't can go ahead because then I can finish mine anytime. So yeah, like we can just go ahead to the basket part and then I will also be able to review the footage at that point, which is very handy.
Fair enough. All right. I'm going to try to like not knock the camera as I'm doing this and go faster. So I apologize if the camera gets kind of like smacked around. If I can just get through these chains really fast. And inevitably, like as always happens, as like on my own, I will do these without any problems. On camera, I will of course just make the strangest mistakes.
Well, you're doing a lot at that point. You're also you're teaching, you're trying to manage your camera at the same time. Like you're, like getting, side tangents while we're making puns and talking about macro mansions.
It's really important to note the pun counter.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, Christine and I were talking about the fact that there's very much like here, I'll put it back up so everybody can see. Actually, I'll pull this a little further back so that we'll get more of a range of vision and then turn this a little bit. There we go. There's a perception that a lot of macrame is just very quote unquote boho and meant to look very like beachy. Actually, I should be up for this one. But I am not somebody who particularly aspires to a boho / beachy feel, and so I'm trying to do more and more projects that look aesthetically kind of different from that vein. I don't always work in this particular chord color. Sometimes I like to work in really bright colors. Sometimes I work in black. I've got a project in black with a much more complicated knot. You can barely see it. This is called a crown knot. This is a very like flexible but fairly strong knot. But I've been doing a lot of my work in black because I really enjoy working in black. I don't have my color pieces up right now, but yeah, I think macrame can work a lot more in different aesthetics, and that we just kind of when we see the stuff that comes up first on YouTube, it looks very much like like in very very white looking like homes where all the walls are white and the furniture is like kind of cream and they have like the cotton cord macrame in the background that's usually about the same color. I feel like we should be challenging that. We should make things that are like bright and colorful or really dark and really weird.
Yes.
And really open it up.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's awesome. It's time. It's time for that.
Yep, it's time for weird and variety.
Yes. You know
it's time for the eye patch.
Yeah. Goth eye patch. Okay, I'm gonna pull 4 different ones than what I actually selected because I think I will like that. But I will knock down my whole poll. That's what I will do. So that is interesting. I will put that back up. Luckily, it's very easy to put back up setup right now.
Yeah, thankfully, yeah. That's one of the reasons I'm super grateful for the mobile clothes rack. Is it's just always like, oh, did it fall off? No, I put it back on.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've got something very similar, so.
Yeah, just a curtain rod with some other like paracord holding it up that Jake put together for me. Thank you, Jake.
Jake did excellent work.
Yeah.
But that is quite typical. Jake generally does excellent work.
Looks like I forgot to get my notification sounds off. Oops.
I heard nothing. So.
Weird. I don't even remember unmuting it. I feel like I've just had it muted like since I started streaming. I don't know when I unmuted it. Okay.
Somebody was like, I really, really need to talk to Christina right now. Quick, your favorite favorite toppings for pizza immediately.
Oh.
Trying not to. Like,
I would just be panicked if someone said immediately answer that. I would be like, I don't know.
Why would you corner me with this? There's so many options.
Yeah.
Macrame pizza. We had to add to it.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
Yes. Okay, I got those 4. I know I'm not going to get to the end of mine at the same time, but I'm still going to keep working on it.
Oh, yeah. Take your time. And, like, I will happily, like, I will get social media set up specifically for doing macrame, but, like, I am also happy if anybody is like, hey, I am curious because I feel like I'm doing this thing wrong, or I don't know what resource to use to get this thing done. I will happily, like, take any questions anybody has.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm more than happy to make sure that you don't end up, like, feeling really, really stuck and not knowing who to talk to or not being able to find the project that you want. Continue, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. I was going to let you know that Jay said, I got to hop off right now, but it was a great stream. You did a great job, Kim. I look forward to more GGC streams as well.
Oh, thank you. Have a wonderful night, and it was wonderful having you around. I look forward to bouncing off hilarious macrame project ideas in the future.
Now I'm getting it all stuck on my headphone cord. That's a new one.
Yeah. Oh, I should, I meant to say at the beginning of this project, if you have any strands of anything anywhere, they will get caught unless you manage to find some way to pull them back. I've gotten my hair caught in knots before. So my hair is up in a bun. There is no loose hair on my head right now.
That's smart. That's smart.
Yeah. Almost done with the third one. Just as another random note, sometimes toward the end of a project, you'll notice the cord at the bottom, especially if you're using like ply, will start to kind of come undone like this. It's fine. Like the worst threat from that is that like sometimes as you're making knots, it'll kind of get caught and make like little knots within your work as you're moving forward, which are not ideal. There isn't like a great workaround for it. I had some people say like, yeah, like I sometimes take like a little bit of like wax to keep the ends, and I'll put a little wax down there so they don't like flail and like start to knot themselves. But those parts, you don't have to worry about them getting like kind of messy and ugly because toward the end we can cut them off anyway. So like if you're looking at those and they're getting really undone and they're really coming up high, there's also like we could brush them out if you wanted to have some like furry kind of brush at the end of the project instead of whole cords. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff you can do. And everything is usually fairly fixable, again, until you involve scissors.
Keep them out of here.
Yeah. Until you are 100% certain that you know you did it right. Scissors stay home.
It's like learning that rule when we were kids of don't run with scissors all over again. It's just don't use the scissors at all until it's very safe. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, do the jump also suggests one. I know that he's serious about this one. Macrame cut/puncture resistant gauntlets, which I am curious about too because I have thought about making similar things.
That's interesting. Yeah.
He asks if you can buy Kevlar macrame cord. Imagine you can buy Kevlar cord, maybe? I don't know. Maybe not Kevlar, but I mean like something.
So unfamiliar with the material that I cannot say, but there's probably some kind of crazy shit you can make.
Right? Like, yeah.
I will have to look around at different kinds of cord that are available and what kind of bizarre or really like odd, interesting stuff I can make with them. Especially since folks, oh gosh, I'm sorry everyone, I keep hitting the, oh my gosh, I did it again.
I keep hitting
the camera. Just flailing around trying to get to the basket. But yeah, no, I'm happy to like do whatever research, to do whatever projects any ideas anybody has. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Lummi suggests an army surplus store for something like that, which makes sense.
Oh, that's really smart. Yeah. That is brilliant. But hey, when it comes to trying more interesting projects, and just kind of making up our own like structures, definitely think at this point I will expand to incorporating more knots for like more security and strength.
Oh yeah.
So
somebody did ask earlier or wonder about, what the tiers of strengths of knots are.
Sadly, people don't really break it down that way. And I definitely, as I'm doing projects, think about it much more in regards to like how strong are these knots and what can they do? Because like one of the big ones I do want to figure out I know how to make them, and I've made smaller versions like hanging cat beds and various kinds of baskets, and doing a swing like for people is not going to be wildly different from any of that.
Yeah.
But you of course need it to be very load bearing. You need it to make sure that it's not going to like come undone for someone under a certain weight, or under or over. You just want to make sure it's secure as possible. So like definitely gathering knots are not going to be your strongest candidate really for anything. These are good for holding general plants under, I want to say 10 to 15-ish pounds. And don't quote me because that's also going to depend on how strong you make them and how tight you make them. And these obviously the spiral knot, this is not necessarily a secure knot as much as it is decorative. When we get to the square knot, that's when we start getting into actual knot strength. But I'm happy to be keeping that in mind moving forward, because I do feel like we need to be like much more technical too about like what certain knots will do and what they won't do.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, figuring out like what, I mean, I definitely don't feel like it needs to be this is the load bearing weight of this and, exact numbers. But I think that idea of like, this is a strong versus a weak or, kind of medium knot is always helpful to know, so that when people do branch out on their own, they can then, be like, oh yeah, I remember this is a good knot for this kind of work and that kind of thing. So
yeah, definitely.
Volumnia had asked, Volumnia, we are in fact making a hanging plant making a plant hanger. Maybe you mean something else. They asked, is macrame what is used for hanging plant baskets? I'm not sure if you might mean a different kind of basket, but we're gonna get to the basket at the bottom of the hanger, or KJ is, and
or they might also be asking to like integrate it into an existing basket, maybe, because that's also very doable. We can build. So there are baskets kind of, I am going to do this. I apologize to everyone. I hope I don't give you nausea vision, but I do want to show you one example. And I have it overhead. So this is the general structure of the basket we're going to go for.
Yeah.
Build baskets that are actually way more traditionally basket-like. So they're like really full and really kind of well self-containing. And would probably do really well for plants that like a ton of drainage and a lot of like that you really don't want to get like the roots soaked. But I don't know how well it would. We'd have to do probably a very, very short or small gauge or low ply to do like a full basket. But it's doable. It's totally doable.
And by low ply, are you talking about the 2 millimeter versus 3 versus 4?
Yeah.
Okay. I swear this one I got, I thought I ordered a 3 on this one, but it feels so much different in my hands than the last one that I had that was a 3 also. So I guess maybe they sent me a 2 or something. I'm not sure.
I have tried for so long, like unless you go through one specific company over and over again, and even then, every so often, you'll get like a spool of it that it's like, this is not right.
Yeah.
This is not the correct. It's highly variable, which is why I tend to like buy them in bulk together in the hope that like hopefully this batch is consistent.
Yeah, and it's also possible maybe I didn't read well when I ordered this one, because I did order several at once actually, and it's possible that when I was selecting things I accidentally selected one of them in the wrong ply.
Yeah, it does happen. Some folks do not like label the measurements particularly well, and you're like, oh, but it's gorgeous, I need it, and it shows up and it's like, this is not in any way what I was anticipating it to be. But yeah, I'm trying to find smaller sellers that will do kind of like much better quality consistency review as they make stuff for further projects, because a lot of this is like stuff that I got at like Joann's or stuff at Michael's, and it's not like the highest quality material, but it's really accessible, and that's really important to have accessibility when you're starting something out.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yep. Oh goodness, he's got a little short. Okay, one more. All right, so we are now, I believe, I'm going to kind of measure these up against each other. Okay, this one could probably use a couple more. When you're getting to the point where you want to put the basket together, put the chains of cord together and just eyeball, like, okay, do these feel fairly even? Because, every so often you'll be surprised. And usually if it's like 3 or 4 knots short, they're going to be like spaced out like this when they're hanging something. So it's going to be really hard for somebody to be like, that one is missing 2 knots. No one's going to do that. If anybody gets into your house and starts counting knots in your macrame, that's not a friend. That's a terrible person. They need to leave. But yeah, just kind of keep an eye on, okay, because you could count, but no one wants to count. Counting is when you're doing really, really complicated stuff like crochet and knitting. This is definitely much more of a chill vibe. All right, so we're getting to the point where we can start putting the basket together. So I'm pulling the camera down a little bit. I'm sorry for the nausea vision again. Try to get this straight. Move a little over because y'all are gonna need to see this. All right, I'm going to take 2 chains, and right now you're gonna want to figure out kind of how deep whatever your planter is going to be. I've got one right here. This one's actually pretty big. I'm going to get a smaller one. There we go. So you can kind of figure out, okay, where do I want to start putting this basket together? Do I want it to start right at where the decorative knots end? Do I want to go further down, dependent on your aesthetic? Also, you know, if you do it really short, it might be a little harder to put your plant, the vessel in, your whatever, it's terracotta. I would say with this, you probably want to stick with plastic for gathering knots, and I will do stronger knots in the future. But we're probably going to want, looking at this, I gotta check the camera. I'm gonna have the design end kind of right at the edge here, and I'm going to try to do a knot halfway down, and then kind of at the bottom, and then I'm gonna have the gathering knot again at the bottom. So I'm gonna start here. So I'm gonna hold this. I'm gonna move this out of the way, so hopefully it'll be a little easier for everyone to see. The two outer knots, keeping kind of where my hand was when I was holding the two outer knots of these two chains, as you can see, these are on the outside, these are on the outside. Pull them close together, and now we're going to do one square knot each. And this, I'm going to go slow. I think I'm pretty visible on the camera. You're going to start with the spiral knot. So you're going to do the left outer cord, or probably right outer cord goes over to the left on top, through the back and out the right loop. But now you're going to do the opposite. So, oh, as I fall over. Okay. You are going to loop the cord that is on the left, have the right go in front, through the back, and out the left loop that you have made. It is the same knot, only you're doing it in the opposite direction. And what you end up with, trying to see this on the camera, is a like little, it doesn't twist, it lays flat. So this has already joined these two together. We're gonna keep doing that. Sorry for getting in the way. And this one's gonna be a little complicated. You're gonna be working even more in 3D than you were previously working in 3D, so there's gonna be a lot of room for error. Just don't bust those scissors out. So now we're gonna take the outer edge from one of the chains that we were working on. It kind of doesn't matter right now because square knots, it's not very easy to see. If you are working with, say, square knots, it would be a little more visible which ones you were choosing. But we're just going to go with the outer neighbors. We're going to do the first spiral knot. We're going to keep it level with the previous one that we have chosen. And now we're going to do the opposite. So the right will go over the suspended cords to the left. The left will go back and through the one that's on the right will go around the back through the left loop that we have created, and making sure that you're keeping tension even and you're not like speeding through. Don't go fast. You're getting another relatively flat knot. And now these two are joined, or these three are joined. We'll take the next one down. Going to take the outer neighbors. Going to do the first spiral knot. And I'm sorry, I know this is going to get, one of the points of confusion is all the knots have to all the cords have to be close together, so it's hard to differentiate who's doing what. Oh, pardon me. But then we did the spiral, we're going to do the opposite. The right is going to go over the center ones, or the left will go over the center ones. I apologize. The right will go from around the front, back, under, and through the left. Very gently pulling, and we get a fairly flat knot. We'll do that one more time with the remaining neighbors. and we will have the first tier of the basket.
Awesome. I stopped doing mine so I could watch this part so that I make sure I don't mess up the basket later. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay attention again.
Wise. Okay, one more time. So it started with the spiral. Now we're going to do the right cord will go over, or pardon me, the left cord will go over to the right. The right cord will be on top. It will go around the back through the loop that you have made on the left, and slowly and gently pulling evenly. There you go. Oh, this one's it's a little, if you have trouble and they're not even, pull them apart and take the first knot, which was the spiral foundation, and just gently pull it up a little higher, and then do the same alternating knot that you did before. Pull them apart. Your knot on the left, or the cord on the left, will go over the suspended two. The right will go through the front, through the back, around the other loop, and up. And yeah, you've got the first part of it.
Woo!
We're starting to get a little shorter on these cords down here. That is generally what we want to happen. And now we're going to join these neighbors for the second tier. So I'm going to keep these fairly close this time. And I'm going to keep doing square knots. And I'm just doing one full square knot to join each neighbor. Goodness, okay. And I'll choose, these two are the next neighbors. I'm gonna let it lay flat so that I can see the size or the, oh, am I, turn that down, or put that down a little bit further so people can see it. Get the neighbors together, make sure they're laying flat so I can kind of make sure that I'm keeping them at least relatively even. Keep going, joining the neighbors with the outer two each time. And I will happily do a way slower video of this and put it up on social media if anyone is really confused and frustrated, because I know this is not the easiest jump. Now what I can do, I can pull out the planter that I had, stick it into the middle. This can take a little bit of fussing. Start to push it down. Generally, if you've got a plastic one, sometimes you can get it to just chill out like this, which is really nice. And you can fuss until you feel like, okay, that's fairly even. And now you just build the gathering knot that you did before. I'm gonna have to turn the camera down again, I think. There we go. Okay, it's a little more visible. Okay, and then we'll get the other cord. I will pull these under so they are together and it feels like it's fairly well supported. I'll try to get it into the center. I'm going to make a loop with the tail pointing upward and the other side of the tail pointing down. You can try to get it tight. You don't have to. As long as it's supporting your plant, you're doing a good job. And I will just do another, here, it's a little fussy to hold, but it's something you just kind of get used to doing. She says, as she clearly is having trouble coordinating it with the camera at the same time. And just keep wrapping, making sure that you are keeping that top tail and that bottom tail and the loop all visible as you're moving forward. Wrap it, keep it secure, keep it relatively tight. Do not strain your wrists or your hands. Get the loop through, pull the top tail, and move it so it's about halfway through. I apologize. It's not the most even, but I have not had to do this while doing it on a camera before, so it takes a little bit of finesse.
No, it's all good. It's going great.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm going to, I remembered which ones are the gathering knot ones. So I'm just going to cut these short. Be very careful. Do not get your fingers or cut any of these supporting cords. I literally just snipped there. That was stupid. Doing good. Doing good.
No, you're all good.
Thank you. And there.
Yeah.
You can cut these at the bottom kind of wherever you want. Some people love to keep them like very open and like asymmetrical. Some people like to keep them very, very symmetrical. My shortest one ends about here-ish, so I'll just cut it right here.
Yeah, I have a couple with a short tail. I'll say for folks in chat, I have a couple with short tails because of cats who will try to get at them. So if you have cats who are obsessed with cord things and that won't leave them alone, I recommend a shorter one if you're gonna have it somewhere where cats can get.
Yeah, definitely. And in the future, I'm also happy to do one of these in reverse that you actually don't have hanging cord.
Oh, cool.
Lots of ways to do this one. This is just kind of a good intro project. But yeah, this is our first plant hanger.
Hell yeah!
Yeah. Congratulations on getting through the tutorial. If you were working with us and you're like still struggling to catch up, don't worry about it. Keep going. I will be available for any questions or anything. And I believe these videos get like archived, right? You guys have them on your Twitch?
Yes, yeah, we have them on our we save the video on demand for a while, and I'm not sure how totally long, but we also upload these kinds of videos to our YouTube channel. It is just on me to remember to actually do that, which I will in this case. But yes, yeah. Oh, and Volumnia just linked to our YouTube on there so people can see where that link is. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And Evan Geld says mischief managed. New first time chat. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you all so much. If I'm happy to end the stream here, and I am more than happy if anyone has questions for them to reach out to me.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can always, direct people your way and ask, Evan Guild ask how goes. I'm not sure if that might be the other friend you said might pop in chat. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Evan Guild. And then Do the Jump says that's so cool. Thank you so much for sharing this knowledge. This power of creation is incredible. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on and showing that. That was awesome. And I think that everything was really well explained and really, I don't know. I know I've already, I guess, I have learned from you, but I think that you do a really good job at teaching and everything is really clear. So I will definitely be directing everyone at your channel or your socials when you get those set up for your macrame, and we will have to do this again.
Yeah, definitely. I would be very down for it. Yeah, nobody hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or anything that you want to see or want to do or are really stuck on. So, don't suffer alone. Reach out to the community. We are here to help and we want you to do well.
Yes, exactly. So, Volumnia says we learned how to make a plant hanger and a cat toy, or a plant basket and a cat toy.
And just one go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I will absolutely make cat beds in the future if you guys want to. I can do hanging cat beds.
Oh my gosh, I so do want to learn that. So even if it's just for my own sake, yes, please come and teach us that. Yeah, cool. Well, in that case, yeah, unless anybody in chat immediately gives us some questions, then I will say that I will direct them your way. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you, KJ, for teaching us these things. And yeah,
thanks for having me. I really had a good time. Yay. And thank you everyone for participating. It's wonderful to work here with you, and I'm looking forward to talking to anybody who's interested in talking. So
awesome. All right, everybody. Good night. Bye. Thank you for joining. Bye.